After a fun week last week, reality comes crashing back for the Sharks as they lose both their games over the weekend. So we'll dig into the Vegas and the Ducks game and check in on the Barracuda on this episode of Locked On Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network, where we cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you got to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can subscribe on YouTube as well, or do both. Both is great. And the Sharks, after a fun week last week of winning games and watching another team kind of be the center of the poop hole universe in the Edmonton Oilers, everything came crashing back to reality this weekend as the Sharks lose to Vegas 5-0. And then they lose to the Ducks 4-1. And it's very much what we have seen from Sharks hockey. So we'll dig into these games, look at what the numbers say, and then check in on the Barracuda, who had an interesting weekend of hockey. But before we do all that, do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you guys by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. All right, the Vegas game, there is nothing to take away from it for the sheer fact that it was an absolute beatdown by Vegas. The 5-0 score actually, I think, doesn't really do the game justice because Vegas kind of got up by 2 and then just kind of put the clamps on the Sharks because they are a Stanley Cup contending team, the defending Stanley Cups, and the Sharks are the Sharks. So I really don't want to I want to focus more on the Ducks because I think there's more interesting things to take away from that game. And it's kind of hopefully a glimpse into the future with the Sharks playing the Ducks. So, yeah, that game was the Vegas game was an absolute beatdown. They, like I said, the Ducks, or not the Ducks, the Golden Knights, did enough to kind of put down the Sharks. And then when they needed to kind of step on the gas for a little bit and put the game away in the beginning of the third period, they did that. And that's what Stanley Cup teams do. They put away bad teams and don't give them a chance. And it was a little close going into the second intermission. But yeah, like I said, Vegas kind of did what they wanted. Everybody's numbers look bad because, again, the Sharks just could not get anything going offensively. So let's turn our attention over to, like I said, the Ducks game, which I think is more intriguing. Yes, it was a 4-1 loss. But you see a franchise in the Ducks that is trusting its development and its young players and putting them in positions to succeed, right? You saw Mason McTavish, who's part of the William Eklund draft. Like, that was the third pick in the 2021 draft. Leo Carlson, who was the second pick in this year's draft, right? You have Pavel Michnikov, who was in the 2022 draft, the 10th overall pick in that draft. And you see these young guys contributing and being pieces. You can see where this team is headed with the Ducks, right? And yes, they've signed some smart players like Frank Petrano and, like Radko Gut. Like, they've made some smart surroundings around these guys, but you can kind of see where this team is going. And we're hoping that the Sharks in a year or two will kind of start to look like what we see from the Ducks now, where it's, like you could see the glimmer of hope after the Ducks have kind of been through the mud the past couple of seasons. And, kind of, especially with last year where they were the worst team in the NHL and they got rewarded with the second pick overall and for their causes, or for their troubles this year. But that's the hope, right? And I know the Sharks, they have some young players that we're kind of waiting to see. You know, you look at like guys like Thomas Bordeleau, who's been having a pretty nice kind of couple games with the Barracuda here. You have guys like Daniel Gushin. But like for Sharks fans, we're kind of waiting for the big pieces, right? You have Phil Beested, who's doing his thing over in Sweden. You have Will Smith, who's off to a nice start in the collegiate level. And we're just kind of playing the waiting game right now, which I think is a frustrating part for Sharks fans, is because there's just nothing we can do about it, right? Will Smith is not ready to be playing NHL games right now. Like that's fine. He needs to continue to play with Boston College and continue his development, right? And Phil Beested, who I've watched, quite a bit this year, again, not quite ready for NHL games. And guys like Thomas Bordeleau, where it's just like you see he's kind of a tweener right now, where he's doing very well in the AHL, but he just can't kind of get his footing right now in the NHL. So we're just kind of, as Sharks fans, just kind of waiting and waiting for our guys to kind of get their turn with it. And that's what makes, I think it's so frustrating, right? Because there's some fun, young, talented guys like William Eklund, I think is, despite he did have an assist tonight. That is a point in 3 out of 4 games for William Eklund, which you notice as soon as you put him with Hertl, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But, there's him and Zetterlund, but the Sharks didn't draft Zetterlund, right? You got him in the trade, and same thing with Nikita Okhotiuk. And you can see like some of these guys, like, okay, I can see how they can be valuable pieces going forward, but we don't have the big shiny toys quite yet. And hopefully next season, right, you start seeing the big shiny toys make their debut and make their impression, and then you can really start to kind of see the hope coming, right? Guys like realistically, like you could have potentially a Will Smith coming. You could have potentially, if you get really lucky and continue the course that you're on, Macklin Celebrini, who will be playing in the NHL next year. You could have Phil Beested. Phil Beested will be over in San Jose next year, so probably playing with the Barracuda, but ready to kind of make his jump at some point. You're going to have a guy like Muku Madulin, who should be a full-time NHL player by next year. You can start to see like the pieces coming together for San Jose, and that does even include guys like Halton and Quinn Musty are probably going to spend a couple more years in the OHL. Like you can see, right? Like, and for Ducks fans, it like, again, we can definitely sympathize for them. We've been kind of the same. We've been just as bad as they have for the past couple of years, but they've gotten a 2-year head start on the rebuild because they had their draft picks for the first couple of their rebuild, while the Sharks were still trying to work through not having their draft picks. And we're starting to see the fruits of our labor here again. Will Smith, whoever you draft in this year's draft, like you can start to see the path forward. So from this game, though, I think kind of the big takeaways is if it's not the Hertl line, you're not getting any offense going. And when we look at the numbers here in a little bit, we'll see that. And that was really kind of been one of the big disappointing things for the Sharks this year is we going into the off season, like in the off season, we could, you were hoping that the forward line would kind of be where it was at, right? You could kind of squint and be like, yeah, I can see some working lines. And I know they don't have Barabanov, and I know they don't have Couture, but it's still just been, if it's not Tomas Hertl and, whoever Hertl's playing with, and that the Hertl, Zetterlund, Eklund line has been outstanding for the most part. Again, I'm not going to count the Vegas game because that's Vegas. But this line's been really good since you put them together. But you're not getting a lot of secondary scoring. You're not getting any secondary scoring for the most part. And that has been a real troublesome part for the Sharks, is just, you can see, right, the Ducks, right? You have Frank Vetrano, you have Mason McTavish, you've got Leo Carlson. Like, there's a lot of guys who are kind of able to chip in, right? And they didn't even have Trevor Zegras and Jamie Drysdale, who are two of their kind of the first picks in the beginning of their rebuild. So it's very frustrating that the Sharks just cannot get any sustained offense, especially from the depth. And what you hoped was going to be the kind of the part that would be able to carry them, right? You go into the offseason, right? It was, okay, the forwards should be pretty decent. We know the blue line is going to be a mess, and there's been a lot of question marks in goal. Well, the goaltending has been the best. The defense is still kind of a mess, but the forwards just have not been pulling their weight for the most part. So we'll get into more of the numbers here in just a second. Look at what the Ducks did so well in this game. And then, of course, check in with the Barracuda here in just 1 second. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guarantee Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, let's dig into the numbers for this Sharks-Ducks game. So 47 minutes of 5v5. Ducks had 52 shot attempts, gave up 38. Actual shots at 5v5 was 29-21, 18-24 scoring chances in favor of the Ducks, 15-10 high danger chances in favor of the Ducks. And expected goals for was 2.66 to 1.85 in favor of the Ducks. Actual goals, again, 5-1-5 was 2-1. And the special teams kind of is a big story for this. And that was the difference, I think, in this game was the Ducks had 2 power play goals and the Sharks weren't able to get a power play goal. And this Ducks, if you remember last year, this Ducks special team was one of the worst I had ever seen in my life. If you remember watching the Ducks last year, but this, again, infusion of talent, new coaching, and you see where this Duck team is starting to head into, and kind of really starting to find themselves. And the special teams was the difference tonight. The Sharks got 0 for 2 on their power plays. Ducks were 2 for 5 on their special teams. And when you lose 4-1, that's a big reason why right there. So was the special teams. Sharks, though, it was a pretty back and forth game for about the first half of this game until we saw kind of a lot of power plays. And like I said, this where the Ducks really kind of took over, was feeding off those power plays, and then the beginning of the third where they were able to get those 2 quick goals, including the absolute knuckleball funny goal from Radko Gudas. Poor McKenzie Blackwood, just no chance. No chance on that. And Vlasic needed to be like 6 inches taller to even have an opportunity to save that. Poor Blackwood. You feel bad because that's the most Sharks goal of all time right there. The only thing that could have been funnier is if it was somehow off a Shark stick and then knuckled into it, but the Sharks shot it somehow. Yes, I know it was off Hoffman's stick, but though what the Ducks, I want to say what they did really well tonight was really kind of drive to the net, and especially kind of as the game went on. The first part of the game, the Sharks really kind of controlled that, getting those high danger chances. It was actually 5-4 in favor of the Sharks after the first period. But then in the second period, when the Ducks really kind of put their foot down and really started to take control of the game, and the Sharks had to play a ton of minutes in their own zone, they had 6-1 high danger chances at 5v5 and 13-1 scoring chances in the second period. And that's where the Sharks lost it right there. I know they didn't score any goals, but you just spent so much time trying to defend in your own zone. And then I think beginning of the third period is kind of when the dam broke for the Sharks. And after that, the Ducks basically just parked the bus and was like, there's no way that you're going to score 3 goals on us in this period. So yeah, good job for the Ducks. Continue, it's fun to see this team kind of starting to creep out of the basement. And you're just hoping that's going to be you here the next year or so. As for the lines, the Sharks ran 11-7 tonight. So the line numbers are going to be a little weird. We did see the Eklund-Hertl-Luke that line got the most ice time at 9:30. Eklund did lead all forwards again with 21-13 of time on ice, but 5v5, 9:30. This line had 9 shot attempts, gave up 11. Actual shots was 6-5 with an expected goals for 0.11 to 0.21. 1 to 5 scoring chances, 0 to 2 high danger chances, with 3-6-3 for the zone starts. Next was the Kunin, Granlund, Zadina line at 4:31. And this is where I think you're really hurting not having Anthony Duclair, who's been out with sickness. We'll see if he's back on Tuesday. So 4:31. 3 to 12 shot attempts, 1 to 3 actual shots on goal, 0.13 to 0.45 expected goals for. 2 to 3 scoring chances will give them, a little bit of a nod there. 0 to 2 high danger chances, and then 2 neutral zone starts. The Hoffman, Sturm, Kevin LeBanc line, they played 3:25, had 1 to 3 shot attempts, 1 to 1 actual shots on goal. Didn't do much other than that. And then we saw a little bit of the Eklund-Hertl Kunin line, which actually scored the goal for the Sharks. 3:25 time on ice, 5 to 3 shot attempts, 3 to 2 actual shots on goal, 1 goal for, 0.53 to 0.18 expected goals for, 5 to 1 scoring chances, 5 to 1 high danger chances. So I would not be surprised if Tuesday's game against the Panthers, if you saw that line together, the Eklund-Hertl-Kunin line. And then maybe you see Zetterlund drop down to the second line where you have like a Zetterlund, Granlund, Zadina line, or if Duclair's back, you could have Zetterlund, Granlund, Duclair. But again, I would not be surprised to see the Eklund-Hertl-Kunin line because it looked pretty solid tonight for the limited time, and you did get a goal out of them. So, and for a team that is trying to scrounge goals together, that might be your way to go here. Quickly through some of the other lines. Zadina, Granlund, LeBanc played for a little bit. Zetterlund, Sturm, Hoffman, like all the other lines really didn't put together too much time on ice. McKenzie Blackwood's performance tonight was okay. Poor guy. The one goal, like that's just a weird goal, but he again kind of kept the Sharks in it as he's been doing all season. So 44 shots against 40 saves, goals against 4, expected goals against 4.53. So basically did exactly what you would expect of him. 909 save percentage, 16 high danger shots against, 14 saves, 13 mid-danger, 13 saves, low danger, 11 low danger, 9 low danger saves. So kind of wasn't an outstanding performance, but, kind of a what you would type of expect from McKenzie Blackwood. So, yeah. I know, again, you're missing basically a line between Barabanov, Couture, and Duclair. That would be a pretty nice second line. But you're seeing, right, having to have guys kind of play up a little bit further than they're expected to. And then running 11-7 tonight because you didn't want to see Oscar Lindblom in there. It's this depth, which we were hoping for, is just not there right now. And the depth scoring is not there. And we don't know when you're going to see Couture back because he hasn't started skating yet. And Barabanov started skating. So I'm still kind of expecting that after Thanksgiving, beginning of December window for him. I think December 7th would be, 6 weeks, or I think that's what I originally had kind of picked him coming back. So it's probably going to be, and you play a very good Panthers team, and then you play the Blues on Thursday, who have played well recently, but still struggle offensively. I know they put up 8 against the Avs the other night, but maybe they're starting to find their ground. So it might be a little while until the Sharks find that next win. So we'll dig into a team that has started to win here a little bit in our San Jose Barracuda here in just 1 second. A new NHL season could bring all sorts of possibilities. The Sharks could score 50 goals as a team. They could also win the draft lottery, and you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. They make it super easy. All you do is just pick some of your favorite players, whether you want to pick a guy like Crosby or McDavid or Ovechkin, or you could pick a guy like with some of your favorite Sharks players like Eklund or Hertl or whomever, and they'll record more or less than the Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times bet with Sleeper, you just need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Sharks fans. You win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. All right, let's finish up with our San Jose Barracuda, who lost on Friday night to the Charlotte Checkers and then came back and won on Sunday versus the Checkers. And the Friday night game was very much the same type of script where we've seen before, where Barracuda come out really well. They're kind of playing well. And then all of a sudden the wheels come off and they give up a bunch of goals quickly. And it's kind of a parade to the penalty box and very, very much the same. But Friday, I was really impressed with, Sunday, today's game, I was really impressed with their response after that, because they won 5-1. And it was what we've seen, where the Barracuda, they get out to a lead. They had a 3-1 lead in the second period, and the Checkers are really putting the pressure on them and kind of controlling the game. And you felt like it was going to kind of fall apart, as we have seen from the Barracuda a lot this season. But they got a goal, kind of opened up to a 3-goal lead, and then they were able to kind of put things away in the third period, playing some very good penalty kill, and then getting a nice play at the end of the game to kind of put it away at 5-1 with Nathan and Todd basically bouncing a puck off Justin Bailey and get to go in and put the score up to 5-1. But some of the players I want to highlight is Thomas Bordeleau, who has been playing wing for the Barracuda. I wonder if the Bordeleau center, I assume the Bordeleau center dream is kind of dead, and they want him to kind of get used to playing wing. This weekend, I think he played really well. He had 2 goals, and he had did he have a goal on Friday? But yeah, I think he had a goal on Friday as well. But he had points in all the games, and he was very noticeable every time you were on the ice. Start of Sunday's game, he's pressuring a Checkers defenseman who's trying to kind of set up the breakout. He gets his stick in the way. Puck pops up right to Tanner Kaspick, who's able to start the game off with a goal right there. His goal, he kind of starts the breakout on his goal, right? He kind of wins a little bit of a board battle, makes a really nice play to get the puck out into the center ice, and then it's an odd man rush, and he is the recipient of the goal there. Very nice goal, kind of a nice like tic-tac-toe goal between the 3 forwards. He's had some nice chemistry with Cardwell, and I don't think he's going to get called up quite yet, because from what it sounds like with Mike Greer, they don't want to really call a lot of the young players up right now, because they want, as he said, to kind of clean up their mess up top before they start kind of bringing some of these young guys in into this environment. He wants them to continue to play well down there. So Bordeleau, that is a good you wonder, especially for guys been kind of up and down a little bit kind of the end of last season, the beginning of this season, how he would respond, and he's been responding really well. That's what you want to see, is him kind of taking the direction that he knows he needs and applying it. So I would assume he's going to get called up at some point, especially with what we've seen with the Sharks. He deserves to play some, get a good long run here with the Sharks at some point. But definitely look good. The defense, I think, is really, really cleaned up, and I think they're starting to kind of find the right pieces together, right? We've seen Thrun and Gavanke, we've seen Mukamadulin and Gavanke kind of been put together for a good chunk of the season. I think that partnership's really starting to play out. And Henry Thrun, I really liked his game, especially on Sunday. He had a really nice, I think Cicek kind of fumbled he kind of like jumped up and like caught a pass or like a puck that was over him. And then as he tried to put it down, it got poked away from him, right? Kind of a little bang bang play. So it was a breakaway, and Thrun made a great play to break up the breakaway without drawing a penalty and keep Magnus Krona, kind of keep a high danger chance down away from Magnus Krona. So Thrun, I think he's starting to kind of find his footing for there. I know there's such a huge kind of pipeline of the defense, and I'll probably be digging into kind of what to do with the defense and going here in an episode quickly pretty soon on what the Sharks should do here with some of these guys. But it's good to see like him starting to play better. I think Mukamadulin, we haven't seen the kind of flashy, gaudy numbers we saw at the end of last year, but I think you're seeing a more steady game from him, and that's what you want to work on for him to work on, right? Is kind of in his own zone, that area of the game before he kind of makes his jump into the NHL. So again, you haven't really seen the production that you'd expect, but I think you also have a lot more offensively gifted defensemen, right? You have a guy like Gavanke, I know Henry Thrun, like you have some more pieces down there. And I can't go without saying Radim Šimik, who has really taken this demotion in stride. And I think he has looked very, very solid with the Barracuda this year. And I do wonder if we keep seeing what we're seeing, if he might get another chance with the Sharks at some point this year, if he can stay healthy, right? That's always been the question with Šimik is, can he stay healthy? We'll see with Šimik what happens with him, but I think he's played really, really, really well with the Barracuda, and he's been a nice kind of fit with them. And like I said, I think they've started to find their defensive pairings down there. As for the forwards, though, like I said, I thought I really liked Bordeleau's game this weekend. Brandon Coe had a really terrible hit, blindsided a guy from the back, drove him into the boards. And I was actually surprised he was not suspended for Sunday's game. Like it was that type of hit from him, which is kind of, like Coe's had a really nice start to the season, but stuff like that, right? That is just those mental errors from the game that you can't do, especially when you're already down and trying to, then the Barracuda had to kill a 5-minute power play after that. I've also really liked Cardwell's game. He had a goal this weekend as well, where it's just that kind of gritty, like get to the front of the net type of game. And I really think he's starting to kind of come along for the Barracuda and looks to be a really, really nice piece for them. So once they get Tristan Robbins back, I think this Barracuda team will be ready to kind of continue to find some consistency, right? It's been very up and down with them. And it's kind of what we saw from last year, right? Is can you start to string some good games together? And if they can start to do that, you're going to feel a lot better about this Barracuda team going forward. So, and then shout out to Magnus Krona getting his first AHL win. I thought he was spectacular on Sunday. That's kind of 2 Barracuda games in a row that he's played really, really well. The goal he gave up was a kind of a fluke goal where got tipped at like the last second and nobody saw it coming. Like he was in good position, and then all of a sudden it was just the goal was just tipped funky. So but the game against the Wranglers before he got called up to the Sharks, he gave up 1 goal in that game. I think it was like 38 or 39 saves, and they lose 1-0. And then this game, it was nice to see him rewarded for a strong performance. So, and then Romanov, who's been playing really well, and I got a little shaken up on Friday night's game. Like those 2 guys are starting to kind of figure it out here. And if you can find anything with E2 Makanemi, who can I know he was the backup today, but we just have not seen enough of him. But you feel like between Romanov and between Magnus Krona, starting to kind of see the makings of a very good goaltender room that can push each other. So, and as both those guys keep playing well, feeling good about where the Barracuda are heading. So, That's going to be it for me today. We'll be back tomorrow where we're going to dig into 3 of the Sharks prospects and kind of digging onto the games that I've watched and what I've seen from them, what's gone well for them, what they need to continue to work on. So make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryhole. Until tomorrow, bye, friends.